I think you're dead on right.
Plus, if there was an actual correlation between the use of marijuana, just period, and driving that resulted in accidents or fatalities, that data would be available. There's hundreds of thousands of medical marijuana patients in the state prior to recreational being passed that are smoking marijuana and driving. And there was no increase.
Well, and it's not like a bunch of people now just started smoking pot just because legalization passed and then started driving around. So there's not really an increase
These are all the
in
arguments.
activity.
These are winners.
Yeah, right. You're making illegal something that has not been a problem, fundamentally.
Exactly. And you're just creating a problem out of nothing. And I think my biggest concern when we start talking about this driving issue is not even the operating well, intoxicated on drugs charge. It would be the fact that, in essence, once again, the smell of marijuana in a motor vehicle becomes probable cause that a crime is being committed. And the first thing the cop is going to do is pull you out of the car and say, when was the last time you smoked marijuana? And if you've smoked marijuana at all in any recent period, or if you smell like it, they're just going to assume that you're under the influence. They're going to arrest you. They're going to draw your blood.
Well, you're saying if we have a standard, right? I mean,
right?
Or
yes,
not.
exactly.
I think,
exactly. Because if we don't have a standard, Tim, I mean, we go back to I assume we can reasonably assume that we go back to People versus Kuhn, because ultimately, when this test case is litigated, I'm certain it will end in the exact same fashion.
I wanted to add this comment.
I think I shared this story. I'll be really brief here. I think I shared this story on Planet Green Trees before. I sat around on the grand porch at Mackinac Island with none other than Rick Jones. We had a lengthy conversation about life and about religion and about crime and on and on and on, and you name it. And and we got to talking about, of course, marijuana. Well, what do you do? And now Jones, I think he's 65, I think his age-wise, but he was a young buck cop, sheriff deputies back in the 60s, and that was when the limit was .15, and there was no such thing as a breathalyzer. I said, Rick, what do you do? I mean, how did you do this? Well, and he just led right into it. So he took the bait. He said, well, I don't know. I mean, if the guy was driving erratic and his speech was slurred and he was acting weird, well, then we'd bust him and he'd get arrested for drunk driving, and then we'd take him to the station. We'd do a blood test, and if he tested .15 or over, he was guilty. Oh, I see. That's what Jones said. I said, well, so what was so bad about that, Rick? I mean, you're talking about putting these kind of arbitrary standards. I know you need maybe standards here and there, but was that really that hard to discern somebody that was impaired? Was it really that tough? I mean, it's pretty clear, if they're weaving around on the road and they're acting crazy and they're not talking right, and, well, gee, that's pretty careful evidence. But once you get into these automatic standards, then he actually didn't have anything to say. He really did. He said, well, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier. It makes our job easier. Oh, I see. All right, well, whatever. I wasn't going to win that argument.
Well, that's the truth. It makes their job easier. It makes the prosecution's job easier.
Mm-hmm.
It makes them easier to get you into the system and churn you back out and make sure they assess those fines and court fees and all of those good things.
They have to reestablish the line of cash.
Yeah.
Well, I would say we need to fight hard. We need to fight up very hard when this comes up to re-educate people. Talk common sense. Maybe go back to the old days. Was it really, that bad? I mean, come on, and get to thinking. Then home in on the idea that there is no legitimate test for marijuana impairment. Period. That's the tack that I think we should take. Hardcore.
I know from speaking to Margot that she is taking a .5. That's what she feels is the standard. We had her on the other show, and that's what she said.
Oh, okay.
She said she supported.
All right. Well, I could
That's
be.
what she said. Margot did.
Well, I don't think that she does. My last discussion with her, I will say...
Is it different? Because that's what she said on the show, remember?
Yeah, I think that's what was being discussed a little bit on the panel because of what they're looking at some other states and stuff like that. and
Right.
but they went through a process. There are like 3 scientists on the panel. Barton Morris also,
I've also
a
heard
friendly
Barton's
kind of a
talk
cannabis
about a
attorney.
0.5, yeah.
Well, he was on the show. He was on Jess Cabbage. You might not have been there that day, and he was agreeing that some people can drive, because I was saying some people drive better after using cannabis for various
Certainly.
reasons.
Yeah, certainly.
Right.
And he I wouldn't have thought that before I started looking into this, but now I would agree with that. And the last time I spoke with Margot, she was saying that they can't really scientifically justify any particular
Yeah,
number.
because when
so,
she was on the show, she was saying 0.5, and it looked like that's what they were going to settle on, and she was, advocating that it had to be a number. She kept saying it has to be a
has
number.
to be a
It has
number.
to be a number.
Right. Well, it seems to this .05 seems to be gradually getting cemented into the culture. That's what it is in Washington State and Colorado and on and on. But, I mean, I would say as a firewall, just have a whole thing like in Colorado. If you have to have some definitive number, then let's just have a backup like they got in Colorado.
Well, like Jeff said, the biggest number you
Is
can
my
possibly
thinking.
attain. Yeah, because if
I
Steve
don't
was here,
know.
he would
You
talk
know.
about how a police officer should assess impairment and how he was trained as a police
Right.
officer to
Yep.
assess impairment
He'd
without
also-
any type of blood test or breathalyzer test, just on behavior alone.
Let it even be relevant evidence, maybe, like not per se.
Yeah.
Let it like if you
Right.
draw blood and it's 4 or 6 or 10 or whatever, it can come in.
Well, that's the
but it
shtick in
doesn't-
Colorado. That's what they got in Colorado, as I understand
No,
it.
I think it's per se. But I'm
Yeah.
saying instead of it
No,
being,
Alan let me know that it's called a permissive inference.
Okay, fine. But here's my thing.
Right,
The
permissive
problem
inference.
that's fine. And I wanted to tell Jeff, because Jeff Frazier may have left, but
Where'd he go?
he was describing how if there was any science that could really be done, and I want to explain to him what they did in that test that I was describing. The federal test was they would smoke this bad cannabis in a relaxed situation and drive, and they test their blood 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And it's not true conditions under circumstances of someone being under arrest, but they were very, they tried to be as scientific as possible, and they still were not able to put a number on anything, and she was leaning in the high teens, low 20s as an area of,
2
of
billion.
being able to beginning to recognize some kind of impairment. But I don't know that.
I don't know that.
But listen, the thing is that you have to understand that at the time of the arrest, to the time that they may draw blood, not always that long. Sometimes they're getting more equipped with it. They probably would be getting some to the hospital right away. And if you're asked to take a blood test and you've been lawfully arrested, you have to consent under the implied consent law. So it's a dilemma, and the question is, what's the impact of it going to be? Because nothing that we're talking about here, whether there's a limit or not, prevents them from drawing blood for something, right? They're still going to be drawing blood.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Right.
The question is, if the blood has cannabis in it, what impact is it going to have on the ability to bring criminal charges? Is a number alone going to do it, or
Yeah.
a combination
Yeah.
thereof? The one thing I was going to suggest was the only way to really do this fair would be this: if you're an adult and you want to smoke cannabis or just cannabis, use it recreationally, you would have to go yourself personally and get tested of what your levels are individually. You know what I mean? Like the only way to really do this, because everyone's so, you know what I mean? But that's something that would never happen. But it is. Hey, did anyone hear my idea?
Yes, I'm listening.
If everyone did an individualized test for themselves, like this test that I was describing that the federal government did, they couldn't come up with it, it still would not be honest. But let's say, Deb, you could go out there and say, okay, I'm here for my testing, and I'm going to hit this joint, and I can start driving. And and you're going to prove that and then take your blood. You're like, see, I'm 150 level or
So
whatever.
everybody's going to have an individual
Right, that's
number.
what I'm saying. Like that's the only way to
It's
do
like your
this. Like,
social security number.
Right. But
Okay.
you got to go, and you go every year. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's way simpler than just
sounds
making the
great,
cops
Michael,
prove
yeah.
that you're impaired.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You see what I'm
that's
saying? Like,
It's like
Well, I don't know.
It's
I
like your
think
thumbprint.
ultimately, it's something we're going to have to come to grips with. I mean, I see a certain inevitability that there's going to be some bill introduced,
there's
especially
no-
after that study comes out.
They have to give the
You
cops
know,
something.
I mean-
They do.
You know what the worst part about it
Well,
is?
that's
It's not
part
going
of
to be based on science. It's going to be on they need something to utilize.
Yes.
That the objectivity of drawing a conclusion of what is probable cause of, and identifying those factors is too difficult for them. they need per se arrest laws. It's insane. That's not a reason to exist. That's not a reason. I mean, let's talk about the position that they're
Well,
in.
and they've got other drugs too, by the way. Opioid, Vanic, whatever. It's all against the law. Seriously. So there's that momentum too.
40% of the judge's time, 40% of the entire enchilada has been dedicated to marijuana, then they're in an existential crisis.
They are really. And that's the point I was going to make. Like, if you
Got
think
a lot
about
of revenue to make up.
their major bread and butter,
Yep.
which is cannabis and forfeiture, has become, like ancient, archaic. And they've been thriving on it. What does it say for their existence? They've been eating, like, all the wrong foods. You know what I mean? Like, they've been eating sugar. So, I don't know. Something like that, But, hey, Tim, you got interrupted. Please continue.
No, well, that's why. Well, but going on, no, that's why they were so desperate to stop this. It is their kind of bread and butter. I would go through certain townships and I would study the results when they had that recent study where you had the percentage of arrests for marijuana, in certain communities. Sometimes it's 19, 20, 25%. I mean, what are they going to do, especially in some of these rural areas or certain suburbs? Yeah, this is very painful for them. But I think, really leading into something that's extremely important here is the fact that we've had a major change at the top with Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Attorney General Dana Nessel. This is a big deal. A lot of folks that are inexperienced with politics, they think, oh, my God, all the Democrat, Republican, that don't matter. They're all the same. They're all crooks, blah, blah, blah. No, that is not true. It absolutely is not true. The governor, the position of governor, position of attorney general, this is a very, very, has a great power. It's extraordinary. Why do you think people spend millions of dollars to get elected senator, governor, attorney general, and on and on and on? Because it means something. It's not just a magisterial position. And a lot of direction comes right from the top. And I'm just saying, on an intuitive, just personal sense, I mean, it seems like really a lot of the hysteria level has dropped as Dana and Gretchen have been elected. There's a new tone coming from the Michigan State Police, that Mike Shaw, who's the new spokesperson or whatever. I mean, it's pretty darn mellow. A lot of this stuff is, it's toned down, and it's toned down because it's coming from the top. Schuette, oh God, that son of a bitch!
Fuck Bill Schuette,
directly or indirectly. I mean, and even Snyder at best was passive aggressive. Okay, I mean, he, whatever, he had the whole thing. Well, this is not what's existing now. I think with Snyder, what he did, he really didn't give a shit. He just turned it over to Christie E2 and turned it over to the cops. All right, you guys, I got to get the budget balanced. We got to do these numbers. We got to run some numbers here. We got to do this and that. You guys handle it. He got no real direction. He just let them do whatever they want, more or less. And it's not the case anymore. And I think the thing about Dana, my God, this woman is good. And see, the thing with her, this is, if you follow what she's been doing very carefully since she's taken power, is she's doing exactly what she says she's going to do. My Lord, that's pretty unusual. And she's doing it. What's beautiful about it, she's not doing it in a flamboyant way. She's not doing it because she hates Republicans. Okay? She's doing it because it's good public policy. It makes sense. Period. That's the shit that I see it. And, even like Mike Shirky doesn't seem to be no Arlen Meekoff, and this new speaker, this Chatsworth, I mean, the guy seems okay, but, to some degree, of course he has his principles. He's not going to go over the top for gay rights or something like that.
Tim, what about Snyder partying his buddy, some CPA buddy of his for a 4-time DUI? I just read that today in the paper.
I read that too. Yeah.
What's going on? What is that about?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Trying to read between the lines. He's probably doing a favor for a buddy.
I know, but
Who knows? I mean, he was a
I think that's
CPA.
pretty
Yeah.
straightforward. I don't think you have to read between the lines. I think that's
that's what I'm
one
saying.
of the privileges he felt he had before leaving office, and he exercised it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, Clinton.
another notch.
Well,
in the-
Clinton did a lot of weird.